Hey everyone, let's take a look at a full breakdown of the add-on, see what it can do, and go through the whole process from start to finish. Right here, you have a completely empty Blender scene, nothing in it. As for add-ons, I only have Auto Rig Pro, which you absolutely need because without it, the Spatial Retargeter add-on won't work. Next, I have Sketchfab Importer, and that's pretty much it. Oh, and screencast keys, so you can see the buttons. I'm showing you this to prove the setup is completely empty. The scene settings are also default, 24 frames per second. You can set whatever you want here. None of that matters because I tried to make the add-on as universal as possible. So we start with an empty scene. First, let's bring in an animation from the internet. For example, Jen Eugene made this cool animation that seemed perfect for our situation. It has everything, all the issues you often run into with retargeting. So we'll start with it. Thanks to Jen Eugene for the awesome animation. Let's import it into Blender. So I've copied the link. Now I'll go to Sketchfab and import it into the scene. There it is in the scene. We can see it works. Cool. I'll put this in a separate collection and call it Sketchfab, just to keep things organized. Of course, don't forget to clean everything up. Let's clean it up right away to make it easier. For example, there are some useless empties here. Almost any animation you download from the internet will need at least some cleanup. I'm just going to remove the empties that get in my way and block the view. I'm deleting all of this just to make it easier to work. That's it. Here it is. We have our Sketchfab collection. Now, import your model. In my case, it's this purple guy. I've imported my purple guy into the scene. I'll select him and put him in another collection. Let's call it Your Rig, meaning this would be whatever character you have that uses Auto Rig Pro. I've moved him to the center of the world using Alt plus G. If yours isn't in the center, it needs to be. It's easiest to work from the center of the world. So keep that logic in mind. From the center of the world. All right, we've sorted them into collections. 2 collections. Source is there. Target is there. We're ready to start. Let's install the add-on. I already have it installed, but you get the idea. Press N where all the add-ons are and find Spatial Retargeter. This is where we'll be working. Now, let me quickly show you why I chose this animation in the first place. First of all, as you've already noticed, it's much smaller. Most of the time, when you import animations from the internet, there'll be some random size, usually either tiny or 100 times bigger. For us, it doesn't matter. I tried to make everything as universal and simple as possible. So, first, it's smaller. Second, it travels a lot. It travels across the scene, meaning it starts somewhere over here, then ends up here, then goes to the center, then falls back somewhere. So there's travel, which is a pretty common issue that's hard to retarget. Next, we have stretching. See how his arms stretch? So we already know with this arm stretching that this is a custom animation, a highly custom animation where the limbs are already stretching. This is also harder to retarget, and consequently, it's likely a custom rig. Custom meaning it's not a preset from Blender, Maya, or anywhere else, like Unity or Unreal, but someone created it themselves. I assume they built this skeleton themselves, which means it will have its own naming convention. Let's look at the skeleton's name and structure. Select the armature and shift-click to open it. In case you didn't know, shift-clicking opens the entire bone hierarchy at once, and we can see the names are like Rig Box, Man, Norman, Toe the End. So we already know a standard retargeter won't recognize these names, and as usual, it'll be a headache of endless issues with standard retargeters where you have to manually map the bones. First, you have to dig through the entire hierarchy of empties, then find the skeleton, then find the names, and then somehow figure out what 0112 or 098 even mean. Well, You get the point. And on top of that, let's at least check the rest pose. Maybe we got lucky with the rest pose, at least. Let's put it in the rest position. Okay, it went into the rest pose. But first of all, it's not in the center of the world. That's one. And second, its arm is bent, and bent in a really weird way. So even our rest pose is wrong right now. And even with the rest pose, a standard retargeter based on the rest pose won't help us, because it'll start glitching due to the mismatched rest pose. Plus, this is a T pose. And if you use an A pose like I do, here's the A pose, see? Here's the A pose. And he has a T pose. That's going to be another issue right there because you'll have to somehow deal with it. For example, even ARP seems to have a remap feature, and it'll try to guess this A pose. Anyway, there'll be a ton of issues. I'm showing you this general breakdown to explain why this animation is perfect, because it includes all the problems we usually run into. I could have shown you Mixamo, Rococo, and all the rest, but I think it's better to take the most difficult case and work with it, to show you why this addon solves most of these problems. So the first thing we need to do is take the source, scale it up, and place it somewhere around here. For example, I like frame 58 in this animation because it's already more or less in the center. And let's make it slightly smaller than our character to avoid unnecessary stretching. See, he has long arms. It's better for him to compress than to stretch. Placed it there. Looks pretty good already. Let's save. So they're already more or less in the center. The sizes match. Our character is at the world origin. Alright, let's go. Select the source, hover over it. Where is it? This one. Selected the source, which is object 304. In this case, that's what it's called. And our purple guy. Alright, done. We can click initial, but it'll give us empty ones. We can click assume mapping, and it'll roughly guess, and you'll see that there are already its guessed limbs. The easiest way for a quick check right now is to close this menu, go straight to build, and click full auto right away. Click full auto and let's see what happens. Bam, the markers appeared, and we can see that when we play the animation, something is already moving. Cool, that's already a good sign. I'd like to immediately remove the excess from my animation, the stuff I don't plan to bake. Let's choose, for example, I like frame 58. So we'll enter 58 here. Frame range means what we'll be baking. I'll also mark the start here for myself, so I don't have to think about other parts of the animation. And he falls at 180. Here we also set it to 180. We don't need the rest, it's extra for now. Set 180 here for convenience and set 180 here. We set the frame range here to bake all of this. That's it. Saved, and let's see what we have next. It's already clear what we can work with. Here you can adjust how strongly he'll react, but I don't want to do that yet. I don't need it for now, but if anything, this is available at the build stage. Let's close build for now and improve what we have. Open Bake Works. This is the third stage, which allows us to bake backward, forward, and do a complete rebake. It only works with the frame range. Everything that bakes always works with the frame range, so you can change the frame range however you like. What do we need to do? For example, we'd like to improve the very beginning. Let's say we see he's in a pose, but this one is already relaxed. We grab the markers. If you find it inconvenient to grab the markers, then in Visualize, this is a menu that will help you with such things. For example, you can increase the markers to make them more visible. Move the markers where they need to go. You can immediately enable record here so it records right away, because markers are just baked keys. By the way, there are too many of them. We don't need that. Let's delete the extra ones so we aren't distracted by unnecessary frames. Here are our markers. We move them. Just like you saw in the quick tutorial, we moved them where we need to. See, his arms are much longer. We can take his pelvis, put it somewhere here. Don't worry about stretching for now. We'll adjust all of that in a moment. Let's put the shoulders where they belong. By the way, if it makes it easier, you can just hide the ARP rig, because it only gets in the way. It's not even needed at this stage. There's absolutely no benefit from it. Move these. Move the legs where they need to go. So, your task is to position the markers so they match the pose. In theory, you can choose any frame, but we'll start from the very beginning, just to make it easier to think. Put the shoulders somewhere here. There's also a body mismatch here. He's leaning, but we'll tweak all of this in a bit. You can spend as much time on this as you want. I'll just show you the basics. But how much you want to polish it is up to you, and how much you want to improve the animation in the end. I mean, the more you do here, the easier it'll be for you later. But if you just need a basic rough draft, then of course you don't have to worry about it so much. But my job is to show you the entire add-on. So, we place it roughly so that it matches up nicely. Let's take the arms. His arms are slightly rotated, as we can see. I'll show you later how to make all of this easier to see. But for now, we just moved everything by eye. It seems a bit better already. And maybe he's not crouching that much, but roughly like this. Now we've moved all of this. Click bake forward. And as you can see, it's already recording from the position that we moved it to. So we matched the pose, and it's already looking better. Now, to fully evaluate what we've got, we can go to visualize right here and, for example, show only the source, and it will show only the source. We can click only show result, and it will show only the result, and we'll see all kinds of glitches. Very convenient. The final action rig will come in handy later. We don't have it right now. What do I like to do to make it easier to understand the result? Just like here, we just show it. You can even remove all the other unnecessary interface elements. So we've selected an area where we'll always see only the source in its pure form. And I also like to make a third screen to see the absolute final result of what we're working with, which is the target. All right, that's the setup we've got. Now it'll be easier for us to see all kinds of potential glitches. And here, in principle, you can bring everything back. This kind of setup is the easiest to work with. We've set everything up. Now we can polish further. In fact, you can even take it from here and do the final bake if you want to polish it manually. But we're going to polish it to the max, because this is a full tutorial. By the way, an important point so you don't get scared or confused, this visualize works via slash. You know, the numpad slash key, which kind of isolates a single object. So this doesn't work through hide, but specifically through slash, so that nothing changes in other screens, because if I press hide here, the real hide, using the H key, this one, then everything will disappear. That's why it works through slash. These ones work through slash, so you don't change other screens. Well, you'll figure out how these buttons work. It's nothing complicated. Moving on. Here the arm is already looking more or less decent. We see that his arm is rotated, but ours isn't. Let's see at what point. For example, whoops, right here we can already see that he's like already here on the 70th frame. We see that the arm is rotating, and we'll do the same thing here. We need only this marker to bake forward, right? We bake it forward. Moving on. His arm is already rotated. Let's rotate it a little bit too. Bake the selected marker forward. That's closer. Let's see what we have here. This is wrong. Bake forward. backward if you want, we can also see that it doesn't match up slightly here. So for example, here we can rotate it roughly and then bake backward or even a full rebake. But then it will rebake everything and you'll lose all your work. It's better to use selected for precise polishing. So his arm has already rotated here. Well, okay, those are details, it's not that important. For example, right here you can rotate it for him and bake backward. Oh, bake. Do a bake backward. Here he takes it. There will be jumps like this. Well, okay, those are details, it's easy to fix. What else do we have left? Let's go. Here he jumps. It already looks more or less decent. What do we see? We see that the leg is behaving strangely, for example. The question is, why is the leg behaving strangely? You'll probably notice when you work that, okay, something's not right here. And before you start trying to polish and improve this, I advise you to first figure out what this bone is actually attached to and if your rig mapping is set up correctly in the first place. So, we'll check it now. What if the issue is at the very first stage? Let's find where the correct marker is. So, this marker is the tip of the right foot. Let's see what it's attached to. Go to legs, find the tip of the foot, and see what it's attached to. It turns out that the tip of the foot was identified in the root joint. That's wrong. Naturally, it will bake incorrectly and do everything wrong, so it made a wrong assumption. This is easy to fix. Let's find in pose mode. Let's find the correct bone. Well, you don't even need to go in here. You can just select the bone you need. That's the one. We just click selected bone, right leg, tip of the right foot, selected bone, and now it will do it correctly. And as we can see, it's some 0116, and it would never have guessed a name like that on its own. Let's do the same thing here, the tip of the left foot. Selected this bone. Here it is. We checked it. Yes, that's it. Click selected bone. That's it. Now it will be correct. Let's go back and try to bake these markers. Let's take this marker. Well, go into object mode, select the needed markers. By the way, again, let's remove the extra stuff so it doesn't get in the way, doesn't clutter our eyes with Auto Rig Pro. And we bake these markers again. At the bake work stage, we choose selected marker, select both tips of the foot and bake forward. Bam, done. Now we'll notice that the leg doesn't slide anywhere anymore. So we fixed this issue, and the problem wasn't with the markers or anything else, not with the position nor where it is, but the problem was only that it was incorrectly attached to the wrong bone. So it's like traditional mapping, essentially. But as you can see, it's much easier to fix and set up. The same goes for all the other bones, but fortunately we don't have this problem anywhere else. We can move on. Another thing, if while you're working, you accidentally deleted something, did something wrong, and don't know how to go back, you can always just open cleaning and click this button. It will fix everything for you, restoring the general setup as much as possible, and clean up the extra stuff. And if you deleted something, it will try to restore all of it, just to make it easier for you to work, and so you aren't afraid of ruining something. So cleaning will try to fix everything for you. Or you can click to restore marker positions, or delete absolutely everything and completely clean it out. So it's like a full wipe if you want to start from the very beginning. Okay, so just in case we clicked cleaning, let's look further at where we left off. We need to keep improving the animation. We already have progress, we're moving forward, and it actually looks pretty good already. What do we have left? Whoops. I noticed that our shoulder got twisted. Let's fix it right away. Right at the moment when he starts to stretch out, and we see that here he also stretches out and the shoulder gets stretched. But before that, we're happy with everything, so we don't need to go back and fix something backward. Therefore, we find the problem moment where it starts here and twist it so that it looks correct. Go to the baking stage and bake the selected bone forward and see what we got. It seems like yes, but we can still improve it. Where does our problem start? Somewhere around here. It should probably be something like this. So we adjust it. For now, I'm just rotating and doing nothing else. I don't need it to be perfect. So, we polished it a bit, took a look. Right here it starts glitching out again. Let's see from which point. If you don't want to touch anything before say we're happy with everything here and we don't want to lose it, let's only work from frame 147. We set 147 here so we don't accidentally mess it up if we hit bake backwards. So, we choose the spot where there's a problem. Tweak it, twist it so everything looks right. I probably should have fixed the skinning a bit too. But whatever, that's for later. And forward, and backward. And then it'll fix backwards too, but without touching anything before that, because we changed the frame range. So we have full control over the situation. Already looks okay. Right here some twisting happened again. Yeah, shoulders are always a pain, but it's always been like that. Okay, bake forward. For example, we'll work from 163 to finish off this part. Let's see, what's wrong? Something like that, I guess. Don't forget to fix all the others too, it might not always be the shoulder's fault. Bake forward. Okay, that's already better. It could also very well be the pole. So we'll get back to that in a bit, because we're moving on to the next stage. Now that the animation looks more or less acceptable, we can move to the next stage and improve the poles, improve the axis directions where the knees and elbows turn. So, it's more or less okay, but no matter how much we polish this stage, there will still be glitches because his arms are twisted wrong. Moving on to the next stage, pole and root marker. Select the frame we need, and create a pole. Poles and roots can only be animated manually because automatic methods glitch, and it's so fast that there's no point in doing it automatically. Turn on auto keying right here to make it easier. We can grab both at once, for example, one here and one here, and animate them so it looks decent. For now, let's focus only on the elbows. For example, the left arm. Everything's fine here. Fine. Fine. Here we see something weird is starting to happen. The elbow should be pointing somewhere over here. Aligned the elbow. Yeah, looks okay. Let's say on the original it points up. We set it a bit. See, it sets keys. And in a sharp jump in the animation the axis direction will change. And again it's pointing outwards, somewhere around here, and right here again, because the arm completely flips its pole. We should probably put it here. Done. So, if you don't get into the details, it's very quick and simple. The main thing is to watch out for tricky situations and quick sharp jumps in the animation. Now we need to do the same with the knees, because the knees are glitching. We take the knee markers, move them further away for now, somewhere over here, and see how the knees look. Okay, right? Looks okay. Moving on. Seems fine, all fine, but here, at this point, he starts turning upwards. Here's the moment where the poles should already be somewhere around here. So, we need a minimal number of keys, it takes very little time. But now all our poles work correctly. We're done with the poles, and this will also fix the shoulders a bit, because the shoulders also depend on the poles. And now the glitches we had before with the twisted shoulders. They fix themselves because the poles are pointing in the right direction. If the shoulder is glitching, it might also be because of the back, and also because of the skinning. So you don't just blame everything right away. Oh, the add-on doesn't work, the add-on isn't helping me. We also need to look at the skinning. And we'll quickly check this character's skinning now. Maybe the problem isn't even the add-on, but at the skinning stage. Turns out, the shoulder was heavily affected by the spine bone and was creating artifacts for us. I haven't actually used this guy in production yet, so his skinning was done pretty quickly, and you can always find something to improve at the skinning stage. And complex animations like this actually let us give us the opportunity to examine him from all sides and fix any issues that might add extra quality on top. And skinning, yeah, is tested on the most complex and awkward animations. That's what gives you a complete overview of all your problems. Well, of course, you know that custom rigs have a bunch of helper bones, but we try to keep it as simple and decent as possible, just at the level we're at. We're done with the poles, polished the animation. One last little thing I noticed specifically in this animation is that his leg stretches out because there's no auto stretching. Here his leg stretches, and we don't have auto stretching. So, where his leg stretches, we can try putting him a bit lower and see what happens. It worked, it doesn't stretch anymore. You see his arms are longer and ours is already straight. If you want, you can just adjust it yourself. For example, here, it should be bent, and right here too. So it's bent up to about here. Again, little details like that. All kinds of little details again can easily be fixed in the final pass. This add-on isn't meant to completely rip and copy, but to just give you a good, quick base. Anyway, yeah, the point is you can control the snapping. See? Shorten his arms if you need to. There. Like that, and then bake what you need. Moving on, isolating again so nothing gets in my way, and moving on to the root. Why do we need it? You'll see now. This is needed to bake the animation in place so the character doesn't travel. See, he walks along, he moves across the scene, but maybe you don't need that because you need the animation for a game. So we go to root marker, create a root marker. There it is, created at the world origin, and the root marker, just like the poles, we grab it and key it. You can press I or you can do it there. Well, ideally, press I from the world origin. He walks forward and somewhere here he should stop. At 76. We move it here. Let's check. Does it match? Yeah, looks okay. This is also very quick. Right here we have a jump. Set another key, jump, and he lands on his butt. Right here. If you want him to land on his butt, say, now it matches. And that's it, he stays there. Now our root, see that took literally a minute, but now the root tracks the character's position. Now you'll see what this root did for you. So root is set up, pole is set up, markers are fixed, everything is ready. We can move on to the final stage, final action bake. Alright, final action bake. Now that we have everything ready and we're happy with it, we click final action bake. To make it a bit easier for you, we'll clean everything up here. You see, we have 3 collections, Sketchfab, your rig, and markers. When you click Create Disconnected Duplicate Rig, it will create a copy. You can isolate it if you want. So, this is where your final result will be baked. I turned off auto keying so I don't accidentally do anything extra. Now we'll bake the final bake. What's going to happen here? We created a duplicate. We can choose how much it will be smooth, but for now I'm not touching that. You can uncheck it completely so it does nothing. You can click the first step just to bake the exact same animation. We wait for it to load and it baked it. Here's what we got. Wait, why didn't it bake? Okay, nothing baked. Do you know why? Before you say, oh, it didn't bake, it's because we didn't set the correct keys. Remember we changed the frame range when we were polishing? Well, it also only bakes the frame range. And originally we liked from frame 58 to 180. And now we click execute exact animation and it will bake exactly the same thing, and now there will be an animation. That's it. It baked something. Let's visualize this, isolate it, look at the final rig, see what it baked. Yeah, basically it looks almost the same as what we had. I'm quite happy with it. There's a slight issue with the leg, but we'll check that later. There's no point in going back and forth 1,000 times right now for minor things that are easy to fix. Okay, we clicked execute exact animation. We have the exact same animation baked, but you see that the root stayed in place because we baked the same animation. And that's what root motion was for. Remember we just did root motion? This root marker that we animated, it was needed so we could, for example, bake animation with root motion. If we click and wait, here's what it did. This root that we animated earlier, this one, it baked it. See, now there is root motion. If we want, we can delete it. It baked the root motion we animated, which might be useful for you. If you don't need any root motion at all and only need it in place, we go to the third step and click Bake Animation in Place. We click, wait for it to load. We waited for it to load, depending on the length of the animation, and let's see what happened. Now you see that one of them, meaning our final one, doesn't move at all. It stands right in place because that root motion we recently animated forces it to stay in the center, which is also convenient for game dev if you need in-place animations. So it's up to you how you want it to work. So we tested all the buttons, baked it. For example, let's stick with in place. I'm happy with everything. If you want, you can do an extra polish. Let's find a problematic moment. Here it stretches a lot. We can click smooth here, bake action, and it will try a little bit. You can click it several times. It will try to smooth it out. It depends on you how much you need it. You can even set it to 1 and try, and it will smooth it even more. But let's smooth it a little bit just in case. It gets a bit smoother. There's an issue with the floor. For some reason, something with the floor didn't bake, but that's fine. All right, we're done. We can finalize. We just click finalize and disconnect. This is the final button we need in this add-on. It disconnected it completely. I copied it, just Control+C simply copied all of it at once, and I can take it to another Blender file. We are completely finished and we don't need anything else. Let's create another empty Blender file. Here is our other Blender file. For obvious reasons, I can't show you like famous game characters, so I'm just showing it on another guy with another independent ARP rig. What we baked, we copy. There, it's imported. You can continue working on it, but you can also take any other character, apply the same action to them, and you'll see that everything works exactly the same way. From here you can do whatever you want, animate it yourself, work with it yourself as you're used to. Remove, say, stretching. I assume you already have some knowledge of animation. You can easily do it yourself. But for demonstration, we take all the keys and move them to the first frame in the Dope Sheet Action Editor. Here, if you press N, you can turn off manual frame range, remove it completely, or you can set one that is convenient for you. And let's go back to polishing. Let's put him in the center of the world, let's say. So this is presumably an absolutely random, independent character, right? What would we like to fix? Let's do it. Harsh stretching on the back. Turns out there were issues with the back after all, right? If we're not happy with the back and all of this is in our way, let's just remove all the keys from the shoulders. And that didn't even do anything bad to us. The animation still looks perfectly fine. If I need to, I can animate the shoulders myself. You can actually remove the location completely, by the way. You can remove all neck location. You can remove all location from the chest. By the way, speaking of location, I'll tell you one. Another important thing to pay attention to is that in some situations, let's see, in some situations you might not need his shoulders or neck or whatever to move much. Back to the very first step that defines bone mapping, and you can, for example, we don't need the neck to move, we remove location from it. Here you need to click Live Mapping Changed Preview. We also remove location from the head. You'll see that it went back to its place. If you remove these things also, say on the torso, you can remove location and see how everything falls into place. Or for example on the shoulders. These are the arms. Bam, bam. put the shoulders back where they should be, but this means you can no longer move the markers because there is no more location. So there are pros and cons to this. It all depends on your preference and what you need. Then, if in the end your neck, head, or something else stretches too much, if those things stretch too much, if you have too big of a spike here, for example, just remove the location. Anyway, yeah, keep in mind that location and rotation are also adjustable. From here on, you can polish this animation however you want, but overall, everything we needed works. I hope this add-on saves you a lot of time and solves problems that couldn't be solved at all before. And yeah, happy retargeting and animating. All the best.